Awesome. So you guys have like totally gone through like all the foundations. You know exactly why it's so critical to stick with the other person, to be on their side, to be on their team, and to create like actual movements with them that will translate into all aspects of your life. It's just so powerful, so impactful. And I'm just like super pumped because I know that this will change everything, which is so awesome. Now what I want to do is I want to look at like the flip side of the equation. I want to show you guys sort of like how this can go wrong and how it can go sideways so that you can avoid those negative situations, stop having that pain, stop struggling to connect with others, and instead have extremely deep and high quality connections with those around you, which is just so powerful, so huge. So let's jump over to the computer and let's make it happen. All right, sweet. So, you know, Carnegie, Dale, he once employed, you know, this interior designer. This interior designer, you know, came in to his home and made like some drapes for his home, and they were like big drapes. And when the bill arrived, he was like, dude, holy crap, that's really expensive. Those are some pricey drapes. Like, what? And he kind of had some sticker shock. And a few days later, you know, his friend he dropped by, and you know, they were looking at the drapes, and they were like, wow, you know. And then, you know, Carnegie, he mentions the price. And she exclaims with a note of triumph, what? That's awful. I'm afraid he pulled one over on you. Totally screwed you over. Now, was it true? Yeah, 100% true. Like, she was basically telling the truth. But few people listen to the truth. People don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear what makes them feel significant. So being human, you know, Dale, he tried to defend himself. And he pointed out that, you know, the best is eventually the cheapest. And one can't expect to get quality and artistic taste on bargain basement prices and so on and on. And then the next day, you know, this guy goes home, this girl goes home, whatever. And someone else comes in, right? Another friend drops in, you know, they're looking at the drape and they're like, wow, you know, this is pretty nice, pretty cool drape. Bubbling over with enthusiasm. I mean, expressing a total and complete wish that they could afford such exquisite creations for their own home. They're giving praise, they're saying you're amazing, they're giving joy. And then, you know, Dale, his reaction is totally different. No longer is he defending himself, but he's just listening to people, not necessarily who are giving him the truth, but are giving them, you know, people listen, just like few people listen to truth, people listen to praise, right? And that's exactly what his friend is giving him. And then he says, well, you know, to tell the truth, I can't afford them myself. I paid too much, and I'm sorry that I ordered them. Because you see, when we're wrong, we may admit it to ourselves, but if we're handled gently and tactfully, we'll admit it to others, right? Because remember, when you admit that you're wrong to someone else, it hurts face, it hurts public perception. And so you have to be kind of very careful as you're trying to have people admit that they made a poor decision, right? Everyone takes pride in their frankness and broad-mindedness. But you see, like, not if someone else is trying to ram the unpalatable fact down our esophagus. The first friend who's trying to basically say you got ripped off, like, you're not gonna listen to somebody who says that to you. But if someone's like, wow, these are really nice, I wish I could afford these, and you very gently suggest that they're expensive, that's the one who's actually gonna get the result and will actually be listened to and cared about in the long term. Horace Greeley, he was the most famous editor in America during the time of the Civil War, and he disagreed violently with Lincoln's policies. He believed, you know, that he could drive Lincoln into agreeing with him by a campaign of argument. And he thought that this argument would be the length that he needed to have influence over Lincoln. Totally, I mean, you guys know that this is, oh man. And so he decided he was gonna use argument, he was gonna use ridicule, he's gonna use abuse, all of the worst things that you can have to try to, you know, influence him, right? And he waged this bitter campaign month after month, year after year. And he wrote a brutal, bitter, sarcastic, and personal attack on President Lincoln the night that Booth shot him. Did all this bitterness make Lincoln agree with Greeley? No! Because ridicule and abuse never lead to collaboration, and they will never bring you closer to somebody else. They will draw a big stake in your relationship and destroy any hopes you could ever have of coming on common ground with someone else. If you want excellent suggestions about dealing with people and managing yourself and improving your personality, read, oh my gosh, so true. Like, this book is so amazing. Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. Literally, I read this book just because I saw it in here, and it was like, it was one of the most fascinating life stories ever written. One of the classics of American American literature. In Ben Franklin, he tells how he conquered his awful habits, his natural habits of argument, and transformed himself into one of the most able, suave, and diplomatic men in American history. One day, when Ben Franklin was a blundering youth, an old Quaker friend took him aside and lashed him with a few stinging truths. Something like this. He said, "Ben, you're impossible. Your opinions have a slap in them for everyone who differs with you. They have become so offensive that nobody cares. Your friends find they enjoy themselves better when you are not around because you're negative. You know so much that no man can tell you anything. Indeed, no man is going to try, for the effort would lead only to discomfort and hard work. So you are not likely to ever to know any more than you know now, which is very little. People will not surround themselves with negativity. Does not work. Will not function." One of the finest things that Carnegie and Dale knew about Ben Franklin is the way that he accepted the smarting rebuke. He was big enough, and over time, as he overcame these challenges he was having, and he realized that he needed to fundamentally change. Basically what he's able to do is realize that there was, true sense he was heading. He was wise enough to understand that where he was headed for failure was just total social disaster. And so he had to make right about face. And he immediately began to change his insolent, opinionated ways. He made it a rule to forbear all, this is huge, this is so huge. He took all direct contradiction to the sentiment of others, and he made it a rule to just expunge all contradiction, all arguments from his entire life, and all positive assertions of his own. He even forbid himself from the use of every word or expression in the language that imported a fixed opinion, such as certainly, undoubtedly, etc. He literally would not use the word certainly. He would not say undoubtedly, because he didn't want to contradict others' opinions, others' statements, others' beliefs. And instead, he used magical words like I apprehend, or I imagine, or I conceive a thing to be so or so. Or, and this one's big, I use this one a lot. It so appears to me at the present. I mean, this one's huge because you want to let people know that you could be wrong. You could make mistakes, and you're only basing what you know on what you sort of hear at this present moment. You're not perfect. You're not 100%. And so it's this key concept of saying, look, I could be wrong. When another asserted something that, Ben Franklin thought was an error, he would deny himself the pleasure of contradicting them abruptly and of showing immediately some absurdity in their proposition. And instead, he would answer by observing that in certain cases or circumstances, and when another asserted something that he thought was an error, he would deny himself the pleasure of contradicting him abruptly and of showing him immediately some absurdity in his proposition. And in answering, he began by observing that in certain cases or circumstances, his opinion would be right. But in the present case, there appeared or seemed to him to be some difference. He soon found an advantage of this change in his manner, because the conversations that he engaged in were so much more pleasant, because he wasn't just saying that somebody else was wrong. He wasn't trying to tear them down and say, you're the worst. Instead, he was leaving them not as their own person on their own, but he was putting them up on this pedestal and saying, look, you're probably right and I'm probably wrong. And that made people want to talk to him. It made it so much more pleasant. And the modest way in which he proposed his opinions procured them a readier reception and less contradiction. He had less mortification when he was found to be wrong, because he said, look, I might be wrong. And he was more easily prevailed with others to give up their mistakes and to join with them when they happened to be right. They were constantly able to connect. And this mode, which, Franklin at first put off with some violence of natural inclination, became at length so easy and so habitual that to him, for 50 plus years, no one ever heard him say something negative. He eradicated negativity from his life for 5 decades and became one of the most successful people on the planet. And this habit, after his characteristic of integrity, Ben believes was principally what led him to have earned so much weight with his fellow citizens when he proposed new institutions or alterations to the old, and so much influence in public councils when, you know, he became a member, because he was a bad speaker. He was never eloquent, and he was subject to much hesitation in the choice of his words. He could hardly, you know, correct his language. He was bad English speaker, and yet he generally carried many points. One of the most respected, like, founding fathers of this country, because he realized that the best way to connect with other people and to win them over to your side of thinking and to have that intimate, deep, quality relationship with them is to say, look, I might be wrong. I probably am wrong. I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm gonna tell you that I'm wrong. And I'm gonna look at this huge picture. I'm gonna change my perspective. I'm gonna say, look, you know what? You're right. I'm not gonna force an opinion on you. I'm gonna very slowly, carefully, and gradually observe the facts alongside you, as an alliance, as a teammate, as a group, rather than an enemy. And he made that one simple change, and he went from being literally the biggest loser, the least popular guy in his entire town, to almost essentially running the entire country. That's powerful. That's freaking huge. That's just a fraction, like, of what you learn with Ben Franklin. He literally is just so amazing. It's just so good. And so I'll leave the video below here of my book review of the autobiography of Ben Franklin. I mean, it's so good. It's a tough read, but it's gold. It's so amazing. And it will literally take this concept and explode it to such high levels. And this is just such a foundational key concept. It's so powerful. And it'll change absolutely everything for you once you understand it. And I 100% know that. So I'm super excited for you guys to get your hands on this content and to learn about this, which is just so exciting. So go out there, apply it, absolutely crush it, take action. And I'll see you in the book review video right below. And then I'll see you in the next module. Thank you. And I hope you guys are gonna absolutely crush it. All right, see you soon. Bye.